a poem by James Allen from the book A Man as a Man Thinketh. So the poem goes like this. Mind is the master power that molds, and man is the mind, the tool of thought and shaping what he wills. Brings forth a thousand joys, a thousand ills. He thinks in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. So these beautiful lines, they are very close to the philosophy of homeopathy. They're in line with the homeopathic philosophy that says ill thinking leads to ill doing and ill doing leads to illness. And man is mind, the quote that we see here. That is, if we want to strictly individualize every patient, we need to understand his mind, because if you want to know a man, you need to know his mind. So I want to encourage you all, and I believe by the end of this presentation, if anybody has a difference of opinion, or if you're not yet convinced that mental symptoms are very essential in homeopathic prescribing, I would encourage all of you to pay attention and listen to today's presentation. So I'll be discussing the importance of mental symptoms in homeopathic prescribing to begin with. Then we'll see when to begin eliciting mental symptoms and how to proceed. At what point of time should we start eliciting these mental symptoms, and how in each step of our case taking we can go further, we can proceed in eliciting the mental symptoms. Then I'll be sharing with you what things have to be observed and what are the things to be interrogated. There are two parts through which we can elicit the mental symptoms. It's both by observation as well as interrogation. And at the end, I'll be sharing some rare rubrics. And as we all know, rareness or rarity is a relative term. And some of you may find that these are already known rubrics or something. But for the freshers and beginners, I believe that would be a insightful, and for all of us who already know, it would be refreshing, because always we have to keep in touch with the rubrics, and I'll tell you in the coming slides why. And to begin with, I just want to raise a point of introspection. If I ask you to put your finger on the percentage of cases where you are able to elicit mental symptoms. When I say eliciting mental symptoms, I mean such symptoms which are worthy of prescription, which will be useful, which will be uh, very essential for your prescribing, such kind of mental symptoms. In how many cases are you eliciting such symptoms? Or at least, if I ask a psychiatrist, I mean a homeopathic psychiatrist, definitely they may be eliciting, definitely 100% all the cases they are considering the mental symptoms. But I want to know that not just in psychiatry, but in all the departments, irrespective of what specialty you're working in and what department you're teaching, or in which special OPD you're prescribing, everywhere the principles and philosophy of homeopathy doesn't change. In every case, we should make sure that the individualization rests on the mental symptoms also. So if you can just point your finger at 100, that is awesome. And if somewhere between 80, 90, outstanding. And between 60, 70% of cases you're able to elicit the mental are really useful for individualization and you're prescribing, good, you're on the line and you can do much better. And if you are already able to do in cases 50%, that I would strongly emphasize and encourage you. This is high time. We should all take time to refresh our knowledge or non of repertory of Metromedica and start trying to elicit more and more mental symptoms and become better prescribers. And I do agree the fact that mental symptoms are difficult to elicit. I don't deny that, but difficulty doesn't mean that we will ignore, but we have to overcome that difficulty, right? So, and we cannot elicit all the mental symptoms of an individual in just a 1 hour or 2 hour of our case taking. Definitely, we can't know everything about a person, but we have to slice through or cut through the visible part. So if you can just see this iceberg, there is something that is visible. You can easily elicit that through observation, and there is so much hidden inside the mind of every individual. There is not much which others do not know, and how much skilled ever the clinician is, we cannot elicit all the mental symptoms of any person. So we have to make sure that we will slice through his or his conceptual image in such a way that most of the findings in the observation and a significant part which elicited by interrogation should be elicited, and this will give us the image or the through this we can elicit the totality of symptoms, and this will help us to determine simillimum. Simillimum can only cure if our mission is, and we should rest ourselves on the fundamental principles of homeopathy. We should have deviated. And coming to points, I can't emphasize enough. I can't just, I can take just the 1.5 hours today's presentation on emphasizing and importance of mental symptoms in homeopathic prescribing. So you have that, you know, very clear without any difference of opinion and without any doubt. We can all say that yes, mental symptoms are really important, and in all the cases. So coming to aphorism 213, in the number 213, Hahnemann clearly says, we shall therefore never be able to cure conformably, conformably to nature, that is to say homeopathically, if we do not, in every case of disease, even such as are acute, observe along with other symptoms those relating to the changes in the state of mind and disposition. So here Hahnemann clearly says that in every case of disease, it's not just in a acute case or in a chronic case or a subacute or one-sided case. And he emphasizes this in the footnotes also, again, how in every case we have to see the mind and disposition of the patient, and we should never prescribe aconite to a patient who do not have a who has a quite calm, equable disposition, or Naxwamika to a patient whose disposition is mild and phlegmatic, or Pulsatilla to a patient who is happy, gay, or obstinate. Because we know Pulsatilla is sad, lachrymose, and yielding. Sage cannot be prescribed to a case where the person is incapable and disposed neither to be frightened or clear examples and very clear statement that Hahnemann makes in aphorism 213, that in every case of disease, we have to consider the state of mind and disposition of the patient. Now, you're all very familiar with 230, and you say, ma'am, these are aphorisms related with diseases. So maybe Hahnemann is talking about so mental disease, state of mind and disposition. I quote you from the we were discussing, like in aphorism 213, Hahnemann has clearly mentioned that in all the cases of diseases, the symptoms of mind and disposition, state of mind and disposition of the patient should be elicited. And this is not just limited to only the mental illnesses, but also to all cases. Master Hahnemann emphasizes that useful to the physician in assisting him to cure are the particulars of the most probable exciting cause of acute diseases, as also the this physician has to know his moral and intellectual character, his occupation, his mode of living. So in aphorism 5, I'm repeating again. Uh, so physician will take note of the most significant points in the whole history of the chronic disease, that is to say, the life space investigation of the patient, as well as his moral and intellectual character, his occupation, mode of living and habits of the patient, his social and domestic relations, his age, social function. All these things have to be taken into consideration in every disease, every case of disease, especially when the disease is chronic. In aphorism 6, Hahnemann again emphasizes that physician takes note of in every individual disease the changes in health of body and mind, and felt by the patient himself, will be remarked by those around him, the bystanders, as well as will be observed by the physician. So in aphorism 6, Hahnemann emphasizes the need for eliciting mental symptoms in every individual disease, and also he says the sources of eliciting these mental symptoms. Those are the patient himself, by spontaneous narration and by interrogation. He will give us some mental symptoms, and and those around him, the bystanders, they will let us know about the mind and disposition of the patient, and also the patient by skillful observation and by eliciting skillfully framing his questions, either by asking him personally or by skillfully framing the questions through the art of interrogation. Also, the physician elicits the mental symptoms. So these are the three sources: the patient himself, those around him, and the personal observations of the physician, and by the art of interrogation. And I hope now you're all convinced that mind symptoms of mind and disposition are important in every individual case of disease, and in acute as well as chronic, in mental disease as well as physical disease, because always the sole guiding principle and the aging is the totality of symptoms of a case is the it determines. And you might be thinking on the mental symptoms and say these are really or Kent's approach okay, but other approaches like Hahnemannian approach of uh, and Boning has always and all that approaches to mental symptoms. But to make it very clear, Kent was deviating from Hahnemann's approach or the teachings of Hahnemann in organon of medicine. Kent just given the symptoms or evaluation of symptoms and gave more importance to the mental symptoms, because these are the individualizing symptoms and these are the most important symptoms for prescribing. So he has put them in the first grade symptoms. It's not like Kent did not uh, favor the totality of symptoms. He said these are more important. All are important, but mental symptoms are more important. And you might be thinking in the bogus approach, Bonninghausen's approach, mental symptoms are not important. I can take the just LSMC and I can prescribe. But Boger and Bonninghausen, they were also never deviating from the teachings of Hahnemann. And uh, why they didn't include mental symptoms? Because it is um, whenever you're erecting a totality in Boger's or Bonninghausen's method, the structural hierarchy of symptoms does not uh, fit, the mental symptoms do not fit in that structural hierarchy in the LSMC or So they said, better put it in the PDF or at the end. These are the final differentiating factors. These are the determining symptoms. The mental symptoms are the determining symptoms which will give us the choice of the remedy. So not just the physical symptoms, but the totality. And you may say, Madam, aphorism 153, the PQRS symptoms, the peculiar, pure, rare. But let me tell you, there also Hahnemann has said these are the characteristic symptoms, the peculiar, rare, queer, uncommon symptoms are guiding for the prescription. But what Hahnemann wants to say is the PQRS symptoms, what he has mentioned is not like one characteristic symptom or two characteristic. The totality of symptoms is not a numerical total. It is a sum total of the characteristic symptoms. And that's what Hahnemann emphasized in aphorism 153. And the mere general symptoms of the common symptoms, they can be excluded, but the totality of the characteristic symptoms should be the guiding principle for the prescription. And the totality, when it comes to hierarchy or evaluation, the mental symptoms definitely they will become the topmost priority. And I hope now everybody is convinced that the symptoms of mind are really, really important for prescribing in every individual case of disease. So how to elicit the mental symptoms? It's not an easy task. Say an easy task as compared to eliciting the physical symptoms. The patient spontaneously narrate those physical symptoms and then question the physical generals are also comparatively easy to elicit. But relatively, the symptoms of mind are little difficult to elicit, and that's why we have to constantly enrich our knowledge and evolve ourselves, improve our skills in eliciting such symptoms. And as I told earlier also, the mental symptoms will be elicited through two phenomena. One is by observation and the other is by interrogation. So what are the things that we need to observe? What mental symptoms can be elicited by observation? It's clearly mentioned in aphorism 90, where Hahnemann says, after the physician has finished writing down all those particular symptoms, the presenting complaint history of presenting illness, and he makes a note of what he himself observes in the patient, and as it is, how much of that was peculiar to him in his healthy stage. And the footnotes of aphorism 90, Hahnemann clearly gives many examples. What we have to observe, whether the patient behaved, how he behaved during the visit, during that he's taking, how was the patient, is he morose or quarrelsome, hasty, or is he lachrymose, anxious or sad, is he hopeful or pessimistic, is he calm, all these things we have to note on the state of uh, the consciousness, like whether he's in a drowsy state or dullness, dull of comprehension, how he spoke, in a low tone or high tone or hoarsely, or in other ways that he spoke, and what degree of liveliness and power was there in his expression and his eyes. Even we have to observe the facial expressions of the patients and the degree of liveliness in their eyes when they're talking, when they're entering, how lively they are, or gloomy, or they are haggard expression, or what, all those things have to be observed. The physician should uh, observe all these things, the behavior of the patient, the degree of liveliness in his eyes, the way he spoke, and the posture, how he sat, and all these things. In the coming slides, I will let you know how we can observe all these things, and and anything else in him that makes strike the physician as being remarkable. So that should appear. This is so much marked in this patient. The way he sits, or his voice, or the kind of look she is looking, or something. This should be remarkable in that patient. So all that the physician should have, the power of the observation of the physician should be so good that he will make note of all these things. We have to observe how the patient is entering. So initially also I said when to start eliciting the mental symptoms. Eliciting mind symptoms starts from the very entry of the patient. Just observe how the patient is entering the clinic, entering your cabin. Whether he is abrupt, suddenly he opens the door and enters inside unexpectedly and without any manners, or rudely.
suddenly. So in such cases, we have a rubric, mind abrupt. And the important remedies like calcarea, causticum, vomica, all these, the entrance will show that this person is abrupt. Okay, and how they're walking inside the cabin. We can see remedies like gelsemium, acid phosphorus, they walk slowly, gracefully. And natrium urine carb, staph agria, how they walk dignifiedly. Walk is dignified. So walking dignified, the cross reference would be mind dignified. And and if a patient comes with eyes cast down and walking with eyes cast down, think of chamomile, a single remedy under mind, eyes downcast, walking with the eyes. And how the patient has entered. Well, after entering, is she or he showing reverence, good morning doctor, or namaskaram, or just going down, or something like in Indian tradition, we have different ways of things that, and whether they're showing reverence. So there's a definite rubric. Reverence. Reverence is being mingled with respect and esteem, veneration. Not just because good morning or namaskaram, you don't think that's reverence, but it is the greeting is full of esteem. The dog be a person, and almost to the point of veneration, like worship, is that's reverence. So at time entry only we have to observe whether a person is showing reverence, or like the uh, remedies like anacardium, they are not so paying respect to others. So that kind of lack of reverence is there, or there is reverence. With all these things we have to note. And lycopodium and pulsatilla, how they get inside the cabin cautiously, slowly, walking tiptoe or slowly, and making sure everything is okay, or is it a safe zone, or like that. They are very cautious. First aid remedies under cautious. So how the patient enters your cabin, that should be the point of observation. And always remember, to elicit the symptoms of mind, it starts with the very entry of the patient. It doesn't start at the end of the case taking when physical examination is over and now say, start an interrogation. Come on, tell me, what is your nature, or like that. It should start from the very entry itself. And after the patient has entered, look at his dressing, the type. Is he fastidious with all pressed clothes, neat and white with blue, and or patient is dressed in a way that is uh, as if he's concerned so much with his clothes and the physical appearance, and in a very affected way, excessively bothered about his physical appearance, putting a lot of makeup and with a lot of jewels and bright colored dresses, and the rubric would be foppish. And or the patient is very indifference to the personal appearance, like sulfur, just put one jute kurta and that's enough. What is there in physical appearance, like that? Or is it slovenly, like messy, dirty? How is the dress of the patient? That things also we should understand, we should observe. And there are other rubrics also in dress, mind dress. There are like aversion to dress, phonium and sulfur. Maybe they come with very less clothes, or don't know, but this is not like Hyosamus exposing himself, but aversion to dressing. And conservative dressing, Kalikar. Conservative means it is traditional dresses. That is like everybody else, how like everybody dresses, or according to the custom, tradition of that culture. And Kalikar with a single remedy under dress conservative. And some remedies like some Senkres and dress indecently, exposing their part. So observing about the how the patient enters, then we can also look at the of the patient, how he has expressed himself. You see, fastidious, foppish, or slovenly, messy, dirty. There's a lot of different people, right? Some This also helps in interpretation. We should make sure we're observing. Then once they come sit and look at the way they are sitting, how album patients at the edge of the chair as it's a or if you want to just immediately rush out of the as soon as the interview over like that, sitting on the edge of the chair, how Latino patients is occupying the whole chair and as if he has the total authority of that situation or he applied on the face and how Ignatius Salicius is it straight. They mentioned that we have been independent, so they sit straight on the so how this is also important that we have process and laboratory generalities let's cannot we have remedies like belladonna and theridium. This cannot sit around. Own kind of thing. And general again rubric sit looking at the ground at the ground, sitting while looking at the ground and also make a note of the postures if there are specific reasons, gestures, actions showing some there's a lot of gestures, lot of like and such or any other involvements also like gestures, awkward, skipping the file. You know, there are so many other gestures at the end show symptoms also. After the patient and how patient is sitting, the posture of the patient, also observe the expression of the patient. We all know face is the index of mind. So there are different kinds of expressions. And we have a grand rubric in the face, expression and several expressions described there astonished. I want to say expression, face expression means change our expressions when we are talking, right? When we are nervous, when we are angry, grumpy, all such expressions everybody shows. There will be some which are characteristic of that person. The or is in the face we have very for mark expression. Prominent expression shown is and the expression confused first confused expression. Your expression, happy expression, haggard. Haggard is a person is as if he's so tired and exhausted, especially because of a long term struggles in his life, and he is very cares and works. Such expression is haggard. An idiotic expression, first relative remedy aggressive. Idiotic expression, like, although the IQ is normal, also change. Right? Put an idiotic expression and the serious expression metals and the serious expression. And then there will not be any expression also. Like an like a vacant any expression. So face expression vacant would be patient. So also we have some expressions, the facial expressions in mind section, like smiling. Main important remedies like aurum, arsenic, they're all carcinosum, they always have a pleasant smiling. Or most part of your face taking, you can see that they are smiling. It's not like immoderate smiling or laughing or Beretta carb or Natamure. This is a smiling. That's a smile and it's a graceful smile. In children, they may not. We think what expressions we can see in children. You are working in a pediatric unit or in a child psychiatric unit. Where children show a lot of expressions. Our observation should be good enough to call that. A child who is hiding his face with the fingers and trying to, hide behind his own hands. That is bashful. Timidity, bashful. The right are the most important. And a child who pinches his fist and who gnashes his teeth, more probably rage. All symptoms appropriate observation attitude is better thinking of feeling really one that reflected in behavior. Not what their behavior. They are behaving disease that patient. And I sometimes patients say, doctor, I'll tell you something, but it is let my family members know about it. I tell you, I open it everything about this issue. That is confiding. If I is willing to tell someone about a secret of another and trust them not to repeat to others. And there are other kinds of attitudes like secretive. A secretive person doesn't even reveal to you. In some cases, you're talking that I'm not able to I'll say any kind of mindfulness in this patient. Why he is hiding and this patient is not at all responding, is not revealing anything. Maybe the patient is secretive. Take note of it. Sometimes they show a suspicious attitude. Why you asking me this, doctor? Why you want to know about my family and my business? Or like that some kinds of attitudes that patient shows towards the physician. Sometimes they show a sarcastic attitude or satirical. They'll crack some satires on us. So take the rubric mocking sarcasm and satire, desire for satire. Or there is such rubric also. Pompous is a person who is haughty and he feels self-importance, importance of his own self, her own self. In this picture, you can see the lady, the attitude, like as if she is a royal princess or something. That pompous or contemptuous is haughty with even degrading others, looking down on others. They not only think they are great, but they think others are low. Doctor, you are a homeopath, right? Or they look on other patients. Look into the mood. Mood is the conscious state of mind or a predominant emotion. Emotion which is dominant or predominant during that case taking, or usually also the basic disposition, how they are showing up. The mood of the patient should also be understood. Not you ask the patient, like you have to objectively elicit the mood of the patient, whether it is a cheerful mood or lachrymose mood, or is the mood stable or it is alternating or changeable. Changeable and alternating is also different. A patient is to sometimes he is anxious and to sometimes he is irritable. Then anxiety alternating with irritability. And a woman is sometimes sad, then again she is cheerful, happy, and then anxious, then she is elated. All such the mood and the emotional state is constantly changing of the mind, mood, changeable. In the same way, contradictory. Contradictory is person when describing about a sad event in life is saying like that, it happened like that. That is a laughing during telling about a sad event. That is a contradictory. Like relationship. Credit positive. Not only the mood, it also what fire or mood delay, external, and also petulant. Petulant is impatient distraction. So like patient distraction with complaining. There are only three all sadness and how we are within. So objective, we should make note of the movement. And we should know how the patient earlier also how a patient person talks is more than what they are more than what they are talking to elicit something. But how they talk, the nature of the speech, that's also very important. Like abrupt, suddenly, that something talking, foolish, excited, and an bad speech. The other speech was meaning. The inflated how much meaning of speech things to be like these speech repeats the same words or it will repeat the the also have rubrics. In this summary, speech step is again follows the remarkable features. We have to note we need to see answer the way they're speaking, but also how they're answering. Asking them a question, maybe regarding a general or a particular matter. Whenever you ask a question, subject full of confusion as for thinking lost up in his own thought, they will confuse me. And sometimes when it asking it is good and you ask When did you get it? So there is a question. There or uh, and remarkable incident and we talk it's snappish. So as if you talk with under the observation. Such all the in the case and point of view
Yes.
good risk. To inquire or it have real statement the to these functions or of mind. But in doing this, he only makes use of general expressions in order that the informants may be obliged to into special details concerning them. It's like once the patient has finished his report, then the physician should get back to him and start some general questions, like, which are related with the state of his disposition, humor, his memory. We can ask some direct questions also, but then they should be general, in general expressions. It should not be specific. Do you have anger, or do you get angry when somebody cracks a joke, or do you have weakness of memory, or is your memory weak? Like, question. We can ask some questions with using some general expressions and start with the symptoms of intellect and memory. Because if you directly probe into the emotional condition of the patient or into his most private issues directly, the patient may not respond to you. But then, if you start with good general related with how is your memory power, or how are you in your academics when you were a student, or some symptoms related with the intellect and memory, the patient will open up. Your mind is composed of will, intellect, memory. All these parts we should cover. Some rubrics which are related with intellect or memory, like active concentration, concentration active, concentration difficult, impossible, and memory active, confused, loss of memory, weakness of memory. If it's weakness of memory, if you're taking that rubric, it's a very vague and a very common symptom. 404 remedies are there. So go into something more specific. Is it weakness regarding business, or weakness of memory for colors, or for dates, or for, is it for recent memory or remote memory, or memory is weak for time? All such things should be noted up. You can ask the patient regarding those questions. And in FRS 89, Hahnemann guides us to ask more precise or more special questions also. After you have begin with it, you establish a rapport with the patient, and you feel that now patient will open up to you and start asking some more precise and more special questions. After 93 also, Hahnemann gives a wonderful description how a physician can elicit so many mental symptoms. It is through skillfully framing questions or by private information. Sometimes you may need to ask members to stay outside and talk privately to the patient to ask about things like an attempted suicide or poisoning or autism, inordinate or unnatural debauchery, excessive wines or copiers or overindulgence in eating or such things. In all such things, patient may not reveal it in front of others. So we should ask the patient privately. And also a private question can also be posed to the bystanders also uh, sitting outside. Also with complete love, jealousy, or domestic infertility, worry, grief, become some families, pecuniary loss or a business failure, family members, or or when your pride, of the people, just fear, or elicited by skillfully framing the question and also by private information. You can directly ask, do you have any jealousy regarding your brother, or are you revengeful towards your uh, cousins, or something? But these things we have to ask very skillfully and very smartly, in a way that it will not offend the patient, but we will get the information from him in a very gentle and a polite way, and also in a way that truth is elicited, elicited by chemical questions. And also, we sometimes felt to ask a patient about his occupation also, but there are many mental symptoms can be elicited by just asking about the occupation. If a patient is a professional artist, there are the chances are quite big high that is artistic, right? So always ask the patient what is their occupation, or the status of the occupation. That is very important. And business, if a person is a businessman, ask whether he has a aptitude towards it, or is he flourishing in that business, or inaptitude, all such. Working in a nursery school may a teacher if is very bookish knowledge only, practical approach or rubric like pedant will come. And a journalist, why this person has turned to be a journalist, sometimes maybe for becoming popular also, but most probable cause could be like they cannot support injustice, they want to fight for justice. And a person who is a social worker, they have a strong sense of just it, 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 so it, and, make this is is- that is the more in the is goes so become into a right there are access is maybe accident and also think this that we have a in the past, like and past it's related but things talk about the families other my mother is so and in what that has the mothers and the patient says, oh, other like or eat lots and all such things can be elicited while because we write them under the sleep section. And they come in during the rapid eye movement phase of the sleep, and dreams, they represent the unconscious motives of the individual, so they are very important uh, to base a prescription upon, and when they are remarkable, they are very marked, and they're getting characteristic frequently they are appearing the same kind of dreams, and same or with the same theme, frightful dreams, adventurous dreams, or something like that. We can take note of such symptoms also, such dreams also. And as we know, Freud gave a lot of importance to dreams, and he has given dream interpretation. Like if a person gets dreams of snakes, a person is more bound to be amorous. Or a person gets dreams of falling down, they have a lack of self confidence or insecurity. A person has dreams of flying, they are people who have very ambitious or very ambitious, like that interprets. But as homeopaths, we need not interpret the dreams, but we can take them directly because we have corresponding rubrics also. And some mental symptoms can also be elicited during physical examination, like when you start touching the patient's knee or his back while examining. The patient may be sensitive to touch, or some people will be just they said tickling and they laugh, or some they don't just much, or they enjoy that examination. They come close and you're checking BB also. They feel very happy. It is like that to be magnetized. And the remedies like calcarea, phosphorus, silesia, we know they love to be magnetized, especially in case of children. You're just touching with a step, they giggle, and they're so happy to be touched. Or you just put a hand on the skull to see some eruption or something, they smile at you. So they desire to be magnetized. So mental symptoms can also be elicited during physical examination. And after that, if you just advise your patient to get RBS done or something, hemoglobin test done, they scream, "No, you mean they'll draw my blood, doctor? No, no, but needles, pins." Then don't miss on it. Take note of that. Fear of pins, fear of sharp pointed instruments. The very first grade remedies like Salicia spigelia. So these are all the different points where we can elicit mental symptoms during. She was a wanted child, unwanted child. They repressed emotions, the birth history, all such things like the infancy, whether whether the person was a very morose and crying or hyperactive child, whether there's history of any domination, there was a very domineering parenting, or the childhood experiences like the relation with the friends, their hobbies, all such things. And in the colleges also, people have so many disappointments or deception, or a love failure or failure in examination. They wanted to do science but they were forced into arts. You can go for rubric like deceived ambition, ailments from. And marriage is again a important phase, turning point in everybody's life. So how is the compatibility with the marriage partner, their sexual history, all such things should be elicited. And step by step, starting from birth till the present day. All such things should be elicited regarding employment, how whether he is dominating or he has a domination from his superiors, or he is soft on inferiors and hard on superiors, or there discords between the employees. All such things should be elicited, and whether there's any bereavement, a death in the family, or any such business loss or a financial loss or a reverse of misfortune, and things like retirement, how the person has responded or reacted to the retirement, whether he took a voluntary retirement or all such things, and how the patient's reactions and responses to the life uh, time incidents, to the events of his life. These are more important. The responses, not just quoting the incidents like or a disappointed love, but after that, how this patient reacted, whether he became hatred and revengeful, whether he became introverted and suicidal, all such things. The reaction of and response of the patient should be elicited in every point of his life space investigation. Also probe into the happiest moments, saddest moments. You can directly ask a question: what is the happiest moment of life? A person who says, when I got a topper, when I have been a topper in my graduation, that was the happiest moment. Most probably the patient is a studious person. And when a person says, uh, when I uh, when my puppy died, it was the saddest moment. So obviously, the patient is has love for animals, sympathetic, or such things can be elicited through that. And ask them about their priorities, the topmost priority. Every person has a priority and priorities and their topmost priority. Like every remedy also has a priority. If you ask directly a person, like, what is your priority? Or what's the topmost priority? To what do you give the most importance in your life? Some people will say, readily. Like, money, doctor. Without money, who can live? For everybody, money is more important, right? That patient is a voracious, greedy for money, or money-minded person like Bryonia or Arsenicum album. Or some person says, love, doctor. My topmost priority is love. I need love. Without it, I can't live. If I skip on a meal also, I can live, but I need love. So there are like remedies like phosphorus, carcinosinum, affectionate, pulsatilla. They want affection, love. Some people, they say, you ask them, what is your topmost priority? They will say, "Uh, respect. Now that I can't sustain. Give and take respect. Satisagria. They want respect at any cost. Some people will say, doctor, if anything else is not there, also I can survive. But I want uh, peace. I always want peace everywhere, with my family, with my workplace. Peace is my topmost priority. Magnesium group, and these are the pacifiers, so peacemakers. So people have different priorities. After you finish your life space and you feel that nothing else could be elicited, you ask about their happiest moments, sad moments, their priorities. All those things can give a clue to the different mental symptoms of the patient. And also ask for the hobbies, the habits, what are the daily activities. You can elicit such symptoms like aptitude for um, music, or ability for music, art ability for desired music, desired dancing, travel desire for, and amusement desire for. If a person says watching TV, this is my hobby, or literary people who says reading books, these are my hobby. So ask them directly, what are your hobbies or what are your regular habits,
Excuse me, Dr.
and
Deepthi. Excuse me, Dr. Deepthi. It's already 4 o'clock. I think we are running out of time. If you, I think you can touch the most important one, Doctor. It's already 4:05. Yeah. Go ahead, Doctor. Yeah. Go ahead, Doctor. Please go ahead.
yeah. So ask about the family relationships, how affectionate the patient is towards his family members, or is there an indifference, the dominating or servile. Dominating is they are domineering on other members of the family. Servile is they are subduing or yielding to too much to make them happy, or such things, or responsibility, or Wife may say, he is very responsible doctor, he doesn't take care anything else, he just comes late night and early morning he goes away, he's not at all. I have to pay the bills, I have to take children to school, I have to teach them, I have to do all the household work, irresponsible. Like that, so many things will come up when you start talking about family relationships. Sometimes a husband may complain, she spends lot of money, doctor, without need, and she buy shopping money on like that. Sometimes like extravagance, and even if it is to a point of dissipating their property or scattering wastefully the money, rubrics like squanders, extravagant, all those things, and also relation with the friends, the number of friends. A person with a few friends, most probably a reserved person. A person who says I have 1,000 friends or something like that, definitely an extrovert. And how deeply or superficially they have relationships, and the nature of friends also you can ask, because a saying goes like, if you show me your friends, I'll tell you what kind of person you are. Like we imbibe each other's uh, mentalities also. So you can ask, rather than asking patient how you behave with your friends, you ask how your friends behave with you. Then so many things come out of it. And your friend's opinion or comments regarding you, a patient reveals lot many things to you through that. And sometimes knowing whether a patient is extrovert or introvert also helps us to uh, rule out so many remedies. Then going little fast. Nowadays, social media is on, and looking at their status or their DPs, their number of friends, all that things also that we can come across, whether they have love for nature or they are pious or godly people or they are family bound people, what is in their DP and their display pictures and all such things can also give us a clue. And also you can ask some direct questions regarding your basic nature or personality. OCEAN is an acronym for the 5 big personality traits like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The first three are self-descriptive. Agreeableness is the person has sympathetic and sensitive and an affectionate attitude. And neuroticism is tendency towards anxiety, depression, self-doubt, and other negative feelings. Patient being punctual or always late, whether they are telling truth or lies, whether they're honest or dishonest. All these things can come by, by the art of observation only. No person will say, "Doctor, I'm telling lies." And sometimes person may say so many lies, and you just believe it, and then maybe in the second visit you come to realize that, oh, that day all he said was a lie. Okay, so be cautious about such things and take note of such things. And based on their boldness, also, there are many rubrics concerned with like timidity, fear, anxiety, cowardice, courageous, fearlessness, audacity. They're all related with a person having or lacking boldness, but they are all different. Because of the time constraint, I'm going little fast, and I have also planned for an activity, but I'm moving ahead. And a mind of a person cannot comprehend, and the eye will not see it unless the mind comprehends or perceives it. If we don't know some things, we cannot perceive it. For example, if you are not aware of a rubric like foppish, that posh and overly made up person, that a person who is so concerned about his own or her own physical appearance, you don't know what is foppish, or you have a rubric like foppish, you will never take note of it, even when you encounter the most foppish person on the world into your cabin also. So that emphasizes the need for getting ourselves acquainted with some rare rubrics. And as I told earlier, also rarity is a relative term. Some of these you may already have known and you're already applying, but for freshers and for all of us to refresh, I will just fastly go through few rare rubrics and I'll conclude. Okay, antics, especially in children, we can see this is like making silly and funny gestures or actions just to make others laugh. So this is a psychotic rubric, and here you can see that the chimpanzee doing that antic. We see many children also do that. That is antics. If children are making again and again such gestures to make us laugh, they go for a rubric antics. this child, the most important remedies are Hyoscyamus and Moxol. This child is wearing an adult brief and he is dancing to make others laugh, and mostly he is Moxol, a violent kind of expression he has in his face, and playing gestures, playing antics. Hyoscyamus, I think, will take off even that innerwear also and play some antics. The adulterous is, we all know it is a self-explanatory rubric, but why I put it in this is sometimes when a patient says that he has extramarital affairs and have 2-3 wives, we fail to elicit this rubric. So, and also such things like even if they have a single spouse, and also there may be amativeness, amorousness, lasciveness, different degrees of desire for sex, and such things also we should elicit. And bargaining is, usually we think we negotiate with the shopkeepers, that is bargaining. But bargaining is not only a discussion of prices and but also conditions with the aim of reaching an agreement that is acceptable. Patients sometimes bargain with us, they negotiate with us regarding appointments, regarding maybe regarding fees and all. If a person is very uh, markedly bargaining certain issues with you, can go for a directory because there are only few remedies. Bargaining, this is also psychotic rubric. And begging is not just the beggars they beg, but it is any person who asks for somebody for something, especially in an anxious way, because you want it or need it very much. Doctor, please, doctor, you please make me well, doctor. Please, doctor, I'll touch your feet, doctor. You please make me well, doctor. So these are the people for whom you can take this rubric. Begging, it's a soric rubric. Boaster, we're all familiar with it. I just want to put it so that we are just refreshed. A person who is telling something big, like something great about him. I am great, I am rich, I am, in a very proud way, and in an occasion that is not necessary, and we find it is a little irritating or offending. You can take a rubric boaster. Important remedy, sulfur. The person is talking about something that they have done or they own, or talking about themselves proudly. It is boasting. Whereas flattering is something you are telling to others. A person saying to other, regarding other persons, some nice things, and often in a way that is not sincere. It is not like if I say you're so beautiful and the person is really beautiful, that's not flattering, but in an insincere way, and just to please or to gain some personal benefits, that is flattering. So there are many remedies, important ones like ambrosia, lycopodium, veratrum, and phosphorus. These are flatterers. They flatter others. They praise others in a more inappropriate way or insincere ways. And desire flattery, we know palladium. Palladium wants appreciation. Palladium cannot live without appreciation, without somebody praising her regarding her talents or regarding her beauty, and all those things. And buoyancy, we know in physics we study. It is the ability of a object to float on the surface in spite of the gravitational pull or sink. So in the same way, if a person has the ability to remain cheerful even in sad or unpleasant situations, it is buoyancy. And it is being cheerful and feeling sure that things will be successful. This is buoyancy. And it is soric root, a fluoric acid remedy. Soric phase has buoyancy. Buoyancy is the ability to remain cheerful in most troublesome situations also. And caluminate is a slandering disposition. The cross rubric would be disposition to slander. It is making false and defamatory statements about someone, spreading some rumors, telling things that are not actually happened, and this is disposition to slander. And Baratramal is the first grade remedy for caluminate or disposition to slander. And a related rubric would be gossiping. Gossiping is talking about some other people and always saying this is going, this happened. And sometimes the patient has this tendency to gossip, and patients, they have disposition to slander. Doctor, what my neighbors, the other patient who just went outside, she does like this, doctor. Like this. They have disposition to slander or making some false and defamatory statements about others. That is slandering disposition too. And coming to confounding, we hear about this many times in research, and we see there are confounding variables, things that will confuse the outcome. The same way it is to confuse or surprise somebody, baffle, confounding. We have rubric like confounding objects and ideas. This getting confused between two things like objects and ideas, or present with the past. That is confounding. Just remember, confounding means to confuse and also to surprise somebody in a confusing way also. Confounding. Then consentious, we all know this. And if a person is diligent, we don't have a direct rubric for diligent. We can go for consentious about trifles. All conscientious people are people who are led by their conscience, or people who are taking care to do things carefully and correctly. So such people, they are more bound to be diligent, definitely. And not all diligent people necessarily be conscientious also, make note of it. And if a person is so much wounded or so much pricked in the conscience regarding some bad deeds or misdeeds in the past, since it relates with conscious, I just want to tell about remorse also here. So if a person has moral anguish and bitter regard arising from repentance of past misdeeds, remorse, and there are many remedies for remorse and consent. Yes, other objective rubric, coquettish. Sometimes women act in a playful way intended to attract men, doing some gestures or speaking in such a way to attract the opposite sex. It can also be true for a man also, but usually it is spoken of regarding women's behavior. So there are two rubrics: coquettish too much and coquettish not enough. And today I plan to differentiate between the remedies and talk because of time. I'm just moving ahead, and even mind flattering also there is one sub rubric, seducing behavioring. There is also a similar rubric related with coquettish. Remember this rubric, coquettish. And credulous is a person who readily believes, and therefore he is very easy to trick. Credulous, and there are only 5 remedies. A person who is very innocently there, they just believe everybody, and they get deceived so many times, they don't mind again and again, they just trust people like that. That is credulous. And naivety is not having enough knowledge, good judgment, or experience. These are also too willing to believe that people always tell you the truth, and they even if people are telling lies also, they just believe it so readily, and they have a poor judgment. They don't have experience of life. Such people, the innocent people. So rubrics related are credulous, naive. And there are some people who are intelligent also, respective of their naivety, intelligence. The very opposite of this credulous naivety is mistrustful, suspicious, cautious. This person walking very cautiously. There are other objective rubrics like effeminate, mannish. Uh, it is, I think most of you know this rubric, like a boy or a man who behaves, looks, or sounds like a woman or a girl. The rubric would be effeminate. These are syphilitic rubrics. These are perversions of the innate sexual nature. So effeminate, and the very opposite in a female, she behaves like a man or appears like a man, or showing some mannerisms or postures or like a man. Even the haircut so short, always wearing pants. So the rubric would be mannish, effeminate and mannish. That another rubric is eloquent, which we usually use it for good orators, good speakers, and all. But it is speech or even writing that is well expressive and persuading people. A person who can write or who can talk in a very convincing way, in a persuasive way, and very expressive. The rubric is eloquent. Cannabis indica, cannabis sativa, like cannabis and opium. These are good speakers, eloquent, and good writers also. They have very sharp, intelligent mind. They're eloquent. And exclusive is, it is only to be used by one particular person or group, or only given to one particular person or group. We see in the market, like say exclusively on Amazon Prime or like that, exclusive. These are persons who are selective towards persons or selective towards things or like that. Too exclusive. The rubric is exclusive too. There are few remedies. Calcare is exclusive because of insecurity, and carcinosinum exclusive for relationship. Natriumur is also exclusive for clothing. Also, calcare also makes exclusive purchases because insecure wants always things which last long in that way. Also, again, you want to say here there are people who are sensitive to certain people. They avoid some people. That is not being exclusive. These are people who are only used to be used by one particular person or few person. And rubrics like frivolous. Frivolous is not having any seriousness in life, not having seriousness in any events or issues of life, always silly, funny, and such kind of behavior, especially when such behavior is not suitable in such situations. That is frivolous. And the first grade remedy is Merck salt. Frivolous is silly, lacking seriousness in purpose and in issues of life. Very silly people. Merksol people are silly and they are revolting. Indignation, we all know it is a feeling of anger and surprise caused by something that you think is unfair or unreasonable. And here, why put these three rubrics? Mortification, injustice, cannot support is these are different rubrics and different attributes. But sometimes, because status agrees everywhere, we become prejudiced. When we feel a person has indignation, we think also they have a mortification or they cannot support injustice. Like that, we should not confound between rubrics. Shouldn't get confused, but you take the appropriate one that is very suitable to that very person. And intellectual versus intelligent. Sometimes there are some look alike or sound alike rubrics, and we may tend to take the inappropriate one. So I want to differentiate between intellectual and intelligent. Intellectual is a well educated and a person who enjoys activities in which you have to think seriously about. So there are 34 remedies in the first grade remedy. Among them is sulfur. Person who is well educated, they enjoy the activities and they take seriousness about these activities and literary interest. They have concerns about society, making a difference in this society. They take some responsible roles. These are the intellectuals. Intelligence, as we know, it is a person who is good at learning, understanding, and thinking in a logical way about things and showing this ability to learn. And they have good IQ. That is intelligent. So never say a child is intellectual. Probably they are intelligent. So both these are SORIC rubrics, and intruger is one rare rubric. Many times I haven't used this rubric yet, but these are persons who make secret plans to harm or deceive people. We know a very broad rubric like malicious. And malicious, these are the people who are intending or plan, or they are characterized by malice. They have a tendency to harm others. But intriguer is a person who makes very strong plans and secret plans to harm or deceive people. Then Nacardium is a remedy of high grade. The cruel, cunning, manipulative, and cunning people. And Nacardium is an intriguer. Please remember this rubric, intriguer and Nacardium. There are other remedies also you should be aware of. Litigious is people who make formal complaints about people to a civil court or law. This is not just complaining, but it is taking a case or complaint to the court of law. Sometimes patients, this picture if you can see, patients may complain regarding doctor is not using the protective or the COVID containment measures. So they may sue a case. Again, litigious is not just making complaint, but taking it to the court of law. They are literally filing cases against other person, maybe neighbors or their business partners or their competitors or something like that. Litigious is filing or suing cases against other people in the court of law. Meddlesome, interfering or trying to influence change or change things that don't concern them. People who are intruding into other people's works, other people's activities, and they're meddlesome. This is called meddlesomeness. Some people are very positive. Whatever happens, they are hopeful, confident, and think of the good aspects of the situation rather than the positive ones. These are the positive minded people, and the rubric is positiveness. You come across such people, you can choose the rubric positive, and the first grade remedies, the rare remedies like Dulcamara, Podophyllum are there, and Moxol is also positive in soric phase. And there are related rubrics like optimism and pessimism. Optimism, we know it is positive attitude, but it is towards future. It is feeling that good things will happen in the future, and pessimism is also something good or may happen in the future, or definitely bad things will come. I'll be unsuccessful. Always thinking about negative things of situation. Here in a dead bed, one person says the poor fellow is half dead. Other says is half alive. Very optimistic. So optimism and pessimism, they can also help us rule out so many remedies. Sentimental, again, sometimes a neglected rubric, but this is emotional person, and this is sentimental means producing emotions such as sympathy, romantic love, or being sad, which may be too strong or appropriate, and feeling these emotions too much. These are highly emotional people, especially the emotions of sympathy, romantic love, or being sad. Antim Crude, we know sentimental mood in Moonlight. Ignitia is also a very emotional and sentimental person regarding relationships. Tuberculum, sentimental to his bikes, or people have different objects of sentiment and relationships of sentiment. Sentimental is such rubric. And servile, as we discussed already, it is wanting too much to please somebody and obey them. Servile, like a servant, obeying everything. Pulsatilla is so much yielding, so much servile. They go to any point to please and to show love because they want love, they want affection. That is servile. And superstitious is believing that some events happen in a way that cannot be explained by reason of science, and false beliefs shared by so many people. Some people think if a black cat comes across as a bad sign, unlucky, I may come across something unlucky. First grade remedy is Lycopus virginica, a very good remedy for depression. It has first grade superstition. Superstitious. Witty is clever and humorous. Here there are some related rubrics like jesting, jovial, cheerful, vivacious. And jesting is to say something that is not serious or true, but just to make others laugh. Whereas jovial is cheerful and friendly person. The cross reference is cheerful only. Vivacious is having a lively, exciting, and attractive personality. A vivacious person comes to your cabin, especially spoken of women. It is she is very lively and exciting and have an attractive personality. You will love to hear to them. Vivacious. Important remedies like cannabis indica, lactasis. These are all vivacious. And zealous. We have come to Z. We are coming to the end. So I conclude in few minutes. The last rubric I want to discuss zealous as it has no remedies, but the cross reference is ardent. I thought I'll just cover the rare rubrics between A to Z. And zealous is someone who spends a lot of time or energy in supporting something that they believe in very strongly, especially a political or ardent rubrics like passionate, fanaticism. Passionate is being having a great interest, or it's also kind of zeal towards something. And fanaticism is towards one single thing and just ignoring or ruling out all other things like religious fanaticism or such. These are all the related rubrics. So some rare rubrics from clinical repertoire like Boric also, this can sometimes help, and some rare rubrics from BBC I want to quote, like a propensity, inclination. Propensity means an inclination or natural tendency to behave in a particular way. So we don't have this rubric in the Puritan or other repertories, but in a clinical repertoire we have this, and in our busy OPD also we can go to such a rubric and verify whether mental symptoms are being covered or not. Propensity to be aimlessly busy, to be cruel, to hurry, to pray, to scold, all such things you can find in the rubric. And tedium vitae, we know, is a loathing of life. And fear, under fear there are very curious rubrics like lectophobia. It is fear of bed, fear of going to bed at night. only remedies: cannabis, sativa, and mania, lipomania. Such clinical rubrics: lipomania, by the way, is the abnormal tendency towards deep melancholy. It is like dysthymia, clinical conditions like dysthymia or recurrent depressive disorder. In clinical report like boricomania, lipomania. Maybe here also we have some rare rubrics like exhortations. It's like speaking curses on other people's or cursing, swearing, and that is exhortations. The only remedy is nitric acid. The cruel and hard-hearted people, nitric acid. And open-hearted is like people who talk very openly without having any inhibition or without hiding anything. Open-hearted. One remedy is bovista. And pyromania, we all have self, the impulse to set fire. Skeptical is doubtful. A person who is doubtful doesn't easily believe and doubtful regarding any situation. Security is the only remedy. Skeptical. And sprightliness is lively and active, especially in old age. It is similar to vivacious, but then in old age also a person is very lively and active. You can go for sprightliness. And there are some objective rubrics also in babies here, like gropes about outwardly. We had a case of acute schizophrenia, like psychotic disorder, where this rubric gropes about outwardly, it has led us to the selection of hyoscyamus, and the patient responded very well within hours, and 1-2 days the patient got a great relief. So we have to learn rubrics, and we have to learn different ways of eliciting mind symptoms from different books, different sources, and try to apply it, and we should evolve over a period of time. I want to close with a case of gout of 36-year male person who is a businessman. He came to me somewhere in December 2016 with stitching pain in both knee joints and ankle joints, which are worse by movement, and these are more on the right side. He's suffering with knee joint and ankle joint pains for the past 6 years. When he came, he was just asking so many questions, and the homeopathy really has some cure for gout. Whether it will take out the root cause, or doctor, is really gout curable? Tell me, is it curable? Something like that. He was so anxious about his own health, and in the physical generals, he was chilly, thirstless, and also he had offensive urination with disturbed sleep. And he got an investigation report, a recent report of serum uric acid levels, which was 8.6. So anything between 3.4 to 7 in males is normal, but 8.6 is elevated, and definitely the diagnosis of gout is established. And in the mental generals, I could only answer few mind symptoms because it was the point where I came to Kerala a few months before, and I couldn't ask much, but I just assured him, if you can open yourself in a better way, I can find your right remedy, and if the remedy is the right remedy, you'll definitely have a good improvement. I gave him that assurance and asked, tell something that is so descriptive about you, so characteristic about you. He said, he thought a while, then he said, doctor, please, I have to confess, I'm very revengeful, doctor. If anybody hurt me, any point of life, I'll definitely take a revenge. Then I took the rubric revengeful, and I asked him, under that we have sub-rubric like, if they are sorry, what will you do? Will you forgive and get back? He said, never, never. If they hold my feet also, I'll not forget. So revengeful, unmoved by apologies is also indicated. And he was very anxious about his own health, as I told earlier. He said he has very less friends, and he doesn't like talking or being social. So he's a reserved person. He has also lack of self-confidence. So based on this, I have repertorized, and the remedy that came up was nitric acid, covering all the mental symptoms as well as the physical generals. In the examination part, he has this ulcers on the side of tongue also, and the urine was offensive. So nitric acid 30, I gave a single dose, and followed by blank tablets for 2 weeks. So he came back, and with a bouquet he came back. It was January 1st, and he said, doctor, I never expected this kind of miraculous results with homeopathy, these small pills. I never expected this to happen to me. For years I have been suffering this pain. Now I have very remarkable improvement in the my pains got reduced so remarkably, and also I have good sleep now. I feel less anxious about my disease, and I have confidence improved, and now I'm going abroad. I'm now confident enough to do my business abroad also. And then he showed me this investigation report and showed me the uric acid level came down to 4, and it was like a real encouragement for me as well. In 2 weeks, his uric acid levels came down, and symptomatically also is better. So here I want to emphasize the need to probe into the mental symptoms, and all the credit goes to homeopathy. Whatever good results we are getting, whatever the miraculous cures and what relief that we get, everything, the credit goes to homeopathy, the wonderful system of medicine that we are all gifted with. And I would encourage you all with this to start, to evolve in the area of eliciting mental symptoms and applying them into your clinical practice. Wish you all the very best for your practice, the freshers as well as all the people who have joined today's presentation. And we are extremely sorry for the technical hitches, and I really appreciate your patience to stay back till the end. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank the organizers as well. So